Are you in a cast?
No, I'm just not supposed to be on it. I'm not sure how, so forgive my like sweatpants, but I don't really have anything that good question. And I've walked out
Wow.
for a week, which hasn't felt
A
good,
blast
but-
from the past. Good to see you.
I survived Florida, 2 weeks of that.
All right, can we talk about the boat thing or no?
Rose, let's go ahead.
That's not my issue.
We're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you to the Washougal City Council workshop meeting for June 11th, 2012. We do have a very small number of council members here this evening. We do have a quorum, or I know that one of the members needs to leave by 7 o'clock. So at that point, we will not have a quorum, so we're going to try and get through as much as we can. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Russell. Councilmember Blinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee. Councilmember Lindsay. Here. Councilmember McDaniel.
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker. Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Thank you. I know council members Greenlee, Shoemaker, and Russell let us know that they would not be here this evening. Are there any members of the public that would like to address council this evening? Margaret, come on up. If you would, give your name and address.
Margaret Tweed, 2715 Northwest 34th Circle, Camas.
Would you repeat that?
2715 Northwest 34th Circle, Camas. Okay. So what I'm here today about is the CTRAN board, and they'll be making some decisions. And I wanted to thank the RTC representatives for asking for information before making an important decision that would introduce high-capacity transit to Clark County for the first time. And I think I'd very strongly like to urge you to continue to ask and insist on obtaining the information that belongs to the public. And certainly as decision makers, you need to have that information in your hands before making a decision. In particular, I went to an open house about the Bus Rapid Transit project on April 14th. And at that open house, it was explained that these alternatives had been developed based on long and short-term projections. The only projections available at the open house were the long-term ones, 2035. All of this CRC, the Bus Rapid Transit is based on these very long-term projections of what they believe we may need if all of their assumptions are correct. Well, so since they didn't have any of the short-term projections, I did request them as an open public record, and they have refused them until this very day. And they insist that those records do not belong to us, the public, or even to you, members of the decision-making RTC and CTRAN board. I did ask the manager, I said, well, what if the board were to ask you directly for these records? And then he suggested that they might give them up then to a board member. But the truth is, I have as much right to that information as you do. The $2 million that they're spending on these studies is not their private funds, and this is not their private study. So I urge you to get those short-term projections and to really understand what our needs in transportation are today and in the short term, not just what they think, they say their computers are telling them we might need in 2035. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Are there other individuals that would like to address council this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we do have two presentations this evening. A first one from Chief Swinhart regarding fire and a SAFER grant. Good evening, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Does this work? Do I need to use this?
There you go. You're good.
Test. Okay. This is the first time I've given any presentation here. I'm sorry. This is all new to me and this computer. So I just touch it to start it. Yep. Okay. I'm here. Thank you, Mayor. I'm here before you tonight to talk about something that was in the press recently, give you an informational presentation on the SAFER grant that the City of Camas recently received. And since we're a functionally merged department right now, albeit not legally merged yet, the grant does impact Washougal to a certain extent. So I wanted to visit with you tonight and tell you what it's all about, the requirements, if there's any impact, any negative or otherwise, on Washougal. And just a little bit about the process and what it entails and what we're doing in Camas as we move forward in this process. The Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, otherwise known as SAFER throughout the presentation, is a grant that's given out by FEMA every year. This is the first time we've ever applied for this grant in Camas, and our grant team was comprised of Kevin Bergstrom, Darren Deibler, and my senior administrative assistant, Alicia Ramsey, and they're the ones who did all the heavy lifting on this, so I wanted to make sure we acknowledge the hard work they put into this. And if you've ever done one of these grants before for the feds, it's about 80 pages that has to be filled out and compiled with all the various operational details as well as financials, so it's not an easy process. Just here anywhere, David?
Well, 5 seconds ago it was doing it, so.
Maybe we were at the very last one, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's try that. Okay, I think we were at the last one. There we go. So a little bit about the grant background. This is something that's been around since 2005 that FEMA has been distributing throughout to fire departments throughout the United States. Initially, it was a pretty complex funding method when they originally put it together. It was designed to pay for staffing over a 4-year period, and it sort of stepped down the amounts that they paid every year, and then the cities, whoever received the grant, had to pay and agree to maintain those people for a 5th year. And it's changed, and it's gone through several different permutations since then. A total of $380 million was budgeted for fire departments in the United States in 2011 for this grant. And the grant is scheduled to go away in 2016. That's when they anticipate that they're just going to retire it unless it comes back in some other form. This is how they figure out who gets the grant, and I'll talk a little bit about why we applied for it and how we got it. Departments that have lost people to layoffs get the highest priority. They're the ones that when they see that application, it gets put to the top of the pile. Departments that have lost people to attrition or have firefighters that are facing imminent layoffs get second priority. And departments that are just simply adding new people, they just want to add to their overall staffing, get the lowest priority. The 2 categories that we fell into were the top 2. We lost 2 people to layoffs a couple years ago, and then we also lost a 3rd position to attrition a couple years ago. So when we applied for the grant, we were able to take advantage of those 2 highest priorities, and were able to get put right to the top of the pile. Departments that are simply adding new people to their roster, usually their chance of getting the grant is very, very low. So that's how we were lucky enough on our first attempt at this to get a grant award. So Camas was awarded $490,818. We got notice of this on May 18th, I think, is when we got the notice of award. What it pays for: salary and benefits for 3 firefighter IV techs for 2 years, and that's full salary and benefits 100%. It does not pay for training, overtime, or protective equipment, but fortunately, as far as the protective equipment goes, we feel we have enough of that in storage that we'll be able to outfit them. Training should be fairly negligible because we plan on doing it in-house. The overtime is something that'll be a little bit extra, but we hope as a whole for the department-wide that overtime is going to go down a little bit since we're bringing more people on to fill some of these holes we're dealing with right now. So all in all, the part that it doesn't pay for isn't that much of a concern for us. Only 2 other departments in the state have received the grant thus far this year, and that's Clark County Fire and Rescue and Marysville. I suspect that there will be some other departments that it will. Usually they stop giving out awards somewhere around August, so I would presume there may be some other Washington departments that get it between now and then. What's interesting is that Clark County Fire and Rescue got it, and some of you may recall that Vancouver got it just last year, as well as East County Fire and Rescue. So Clark County has done very well nationwide as far as having so many departments in our county that have been able to take advantage of this grant. I think it speaks volumes to our need in Clark County and as fast as it's growing. Sorry, some of those are popping off and coming back on. But. So the rules and requirements, there's always catches with these federal grants, and I'll talk about them a little bit right now. As I said, the grant pays full salary and benefit for 2 years. No requirements to maintain those personnel beyond those 2 years, and that's what's different about this particular grant compared to the one that Vancouver and East County Fire and Rescue got, is that that was a little different version of the grant. They're required to maintain those people if they accept it, they have to keep those people for a 3rd year on their dime. Late in 2011, President Obama made some changes to several federal grants, in particular the SAFER grants, and he eliminated that 3rd year provision. So it's 2 years, 100%, no requirement beyond those 2 years. Here are a couple catches to it. No layoffs. Layoffs are not allowed during that 2-year period, or any grant money received to date would have to be paid back. And loss of positions through attrition is not allowed during that 2-year period unless the city can prove financial hardship. And that's also a recent change. It used to be that the attrition requirement was the same as layoff requirement. You simply, I mean, whatever number you started at, you had to maintain no matter what. And they softened that a little bit by saying that if you can make the case that you need to lose a position through attrition due to a severe financial need, then they're willing to consider that. So that's one of those doors that they've left open a little bit with the new version of the SAFER grant. So what happens if Camas declines the grant? This is something I talked about with the Camas Council here just last week. The city's under no obligation to take the grant. It's not like FEMA puts money in your bank account and you have to spend it. It's basically you have to hire these people, and then you pay them, and then you have to submit basically accounting statements to FEMA, and they'll reimburse you. So if you never hire anybody, or you never take the grant, then you never actually get the money. If the grant is refused, the city waives all claims to the award, and then they basically just put that money back in the pot, and maybe a department that wouldn't have had the opportunity to get it previously might get a shot at it if the money is refused. The city's dropped to the lowest priority for future federal FEMA grants for several years. That's the one downside if it's turned down, is that if any other grants come across their table that say City of Camas on them, they tend to get put to the bottom of the pile because they figure, why are we going to give you money if you didn't want the money we offered you last time? So, and given the 2016 sunset date for SAFER, it's unlikely there'd be another opportunity for the city to get the grant. So to us, it felt like it's our first and last opportunity probably to take advantage of this. So why did Camas apply for the grant? And this is a big part that we laid out in the presentation to the Camas Council, because we wanted to make sure we were spelling out that we weren't going for this just because it was some free money. We knew that we had to make the case that we actually needed it, because a lot of departments, in my experience, will go at things like this and say, well, it's free money, we'd be stupid not to take it, and that's the wrong tactic to take. You have to be able to show that you need to have these people. Some of the things we're dealing with in Camas and consequently in Washougal too, since we're functionally consolidated right now, is the department is operating with 4.5 fewer FTEs than it did just 2 years ago. Overtime has gone up, mostly due to low staffing levels that we're dealing with. In Camas in particular, these are numbers that come from U.S. Census Bureau related specifically to Camas. Population is up 54% between 2000 and 2010. Subsequently, call volumes up 24% in that same period of time. Call volume is up just 10% in the last 2 years, and what's striking to me about that is in my experience with other departments, for a moderately growing city, I'm used to seeing a call volume increase of 2 to 3% a year is typical. And when we pull these statistics and see that we're jumping 10% in just 2 years, it's pretty startling, and it shows you what the demand of service has done for us, or done to us, if you will. And call volume is gotten to the point where our mutual aid partners have at times expressed concern that they've had to come in and help us out so often in being able to back up our units. And that's something that's sort of a domino effect, because we're going over into Vancouver and helping them out quite a bit, and other people are having to come in and help us out too when our call volume goes up. An interesting point that was made by one of the Camas counselors was let's see, the second bullet point up from the bottom. He asked, he said that he thought that was strange that the call volume was up 10% in 2 years because he didn't think that the population, he thought it was unlikely the population had gone up 10% in 2 years. And that's probably right. And the thing I explained is that a lot of times what we see is that, you know, call volume operates sometimes independently of what the population growth is doing. In my previous city of Aberdeen, what we were dealing with for many years was actually a dropping population, and yet the call volume continued to spike. So a lot of times that call volume has to do with things like the age of your population, the poverty level, a lot of things that can be completely independent of what your population growth or loss is doing. And staffing, and here's something that's been really tough for us lately, is our staffing level is so low right now, at least on 2 of our shifts, that all it takes is one person calling in sick or taking a vacation day, and that generates overtime. So what we're hoping to do with this grant is plug some of those holes so we're not generating as much overtime. And you know, some people may look at that bullet point and they'll say, well, you're the manager, why are you letting them take overtime if it why are you letting people take vacation if it generates overtime? And that's something that's out of my control. It's guaranteed by contract that's been established long before I was hired. So I don't have the ability to say, you can't have that vacation day because it generates overtime. Their contract says that they get certain vacation days. I have to let them have them. So that's one of the constraints that I have in being able to control that. Just some graphs, and I think you can see those pretty well up there. Just compares 3 things that we're dealing with in the department right now, which is the run volume, which you can see is on a steady increase, the population, which is increasing on a little bit steeper angle, and then what our FTEs have done roughly over that same period of time. And the biggest concern, of course, is in that last few years where those FTE numbers have dropped down. So while the run volume continues that upward swing, our staffing has actually dropped. So that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to apply for the grant. And some of the questions that I'm sure you folks are concerned about tonight is, how does this affect Washougal as a city, and how does it affect Washougal as a fire department? The grant was applied for by the City of Camas only, and that's simply a requirement. And as I said at the beginning of the presentation, we're not a new legal entity yet. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't apply for it under Washougal's name. It had to be applied for only by the City of Camas. And thus, as a result of that, the City of Camas is the only name that's on that grant form, on that grant application, on that grant award. So there's no financial or legal obligation to Washougal as far as these employees when it comes to their training or overtime or anything like that. It is anticipated that the training and overtime funds for these personnel will come from the Camas General Fund, so they're not even going to be coming out of the EMS budget, so it doesn't even impact Washougal secondhand through the EMS budget, which we all share from. The interesting part of this is definitely a positive aspect of the impact this is going to have on Washougal is that since Camas and Washougal are functionally consolidated, Washougal actually gets to share in these added staffing. So Washougal actually gets to have to share in these extra people, but you don't have any responsibility to them. So that's kind of nice from the City of Washougal's perspective. And what we're hoping that this will do for Washougal specifically, and also Camas, of course, is that it's going to help reduce some of the overtime, since 20% of the Washougal staffing is currently still off on long-term disability. And what that does is it creates holes, it creates overtime. And so if we're adding these people back into the mix, hopefully it's not only going to reduce the Camas overtime, but it's going to reduce the Washougal overtime as well. And in Camas right now, we're not any better off. We've got 2 people of our own that are still on long-term disability with no known date for return right now because they're dealing with some pretty serious injuries. So that's the presentation I had on the SAFER grant. And the next step in Camas is we'll be taking this before the Camas General Council meeting next Monday to get their approval, and if we get their approval, then we'll be advertising and hiring these people as soon as possible. And it's, we'd like to do it immediately, but when you have to advertise for a civil service test and so forth, it takes a little bit of time. Probably will be a month from the time that we get approval before we get these people on. We're the Washougal Volunteer Group will have every opportunity to be able to apply for this as well, and we'd love to be able to get the Washougal volunteers, those that are interested, taking the test, and hopefully get them up toward in Camas we have the selection of the top 10. So I'm very hopeful and optimistic that some of the Washougal volunteers will get into that position, so we'll be able to consider them. It'd be very nice for the whole group. So if there's any specific questions, comments that you may have, I'd be happy to answer them.
Connie Jo.
Chief, we're looking at the Regional Fire Authority.
Yes.
Would that, if we were to enter into that during this 2-year period, would that affect this grant?
No, it wouldn't affect the grant. These people would basically, if it, let's say it's probably unlikely, but let's say the RFA formed within a year, then these people would become the ongoing responsibility of the RFA then, as far as whether we wanted to keep them or not. So whether we had the ability to keep them after 2 years. So that's is how that would work.
Because I'm just thinking of the requirement, it's for Camas, and if Camas sort of no longer exists as a fire department.
Well, it would still be a responsibility of the city of Camas, because it's Mayor Scott Higgins' signature on the bottom of that grant. So, I mean, technically, they're still the responsibility of Camas as far as paying the overtime and anything like that. Now, if a new RFA is formed in that period of time, then the ability to be able to keep them, if the organization wanted to, would probably be based on the overall finances of the combined organization at that point, of whether they wanted to be kept or not beyond that 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, Jennifer?
I do have a couple of questions. I keep hearing mention about overtime issues and how, you know, these additional firefighters are supposed to help relieve that. And I was under the impression actually that the trial consolidation was helping with that regard as well.
It was helping quite a lot until we lost 6 of our people in the months of April and May to long-term disabilities, and that's so we were doing so well for such a long period of time, and then it's basically we're not saving anything right now. Now as these people are starting to come back, it's picking back up and things are getting better. But yeah, and so what we're hoping is that during the short term, especially over the next few months, and summer is when most people want to take vacation, of course, that over the next few months these people will definitely plug some of those holes that are being left empty right now because people can't come back to work.
Okay. Also, you were going to address Councilmember Cheney's concerns regarding the sustainability after the 2-year period, and is that something that's another presentation? Or?
No, I mean, as the mayor explained to him in the meeting as well, I mean, we don't have, I mean, it's impossible for us to create a detailed financial plan to be able to keep these people after 2 years, because we don't know if that financial ability is going to exist at that time. What we are hopeful of is the improved economic situation in the Camas General Fund, and also the ability that there will probably be people that will retire toward the end of the grant that we'll be able to, if we need to, outside of that 2-year window, we'll be able to attrition people if we need to. But we believe that that need is still going to remain, and you know, we're planning on the ability to be able to maintain them if we can, but if we can't, then we also have the ability to lose them if we have to, and that's something that the Firefighters Union is aware of as well, and they understand how that works. If the money's not there to maintain those people, then they won't be able to be maintained. And that's unfortunate, but that's the way the grant works, and we've made that very clear, and we'll make that very clear with the people we hire too, is that, hey, the money for your position is for 2 years, and if you're lucky and things get really good, maybe we'll be able to keep you beyond that 2 years, but there's no promise of that. So everybody will be made aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim.
Good evening.
You've got some information for us on informational signs.
Yes. So tonight, just wanted to go over the new sign program, but we'll have just a real brief presentation here and just answer some of the questions on what it is, why it's needed, where, and then some of the next steps. This is the WISP program that we're going to be talking about tonight. And so what is WISP? It is the Washougal Informational Sign Program. And you can see the sign there. This is a conceptual of what the sign will look like. There's actually going to be 3 of these signs around town, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But this is going to provide Washougal business an affordable advertising opportunity, and it's also going to help motorists to find their way around town as well. So we're pretty excited about getting this started. Really, why is this needed? And the big reason is that businesses really, they approached us last summer, I think, even when E Street construction was going on, that they needed some kind of advertising opportunity similar to what they have on SR 14, the motorist information signs. This is a similar program to what the state does as well. So it's really a response to those businesses and really an economic development opportunity for us. So we actually sent out some letters to some of the different businesses. Actually, anyone that had a Washougal business license, we wanted to gauge their reaction to this program and see if we would have customers, I guess, so to speak, to place their signs on the master signs. And we did. We had a really good reaction. So we estimate about 2 of the 3 signs initially will be filled up. So we're going to work on that. Where are these signs going to be located? They'll be located at 3 different spots. At least 2 initially. We're thinking 2 initially, with the last one there, C Street between 2nd and 3rd Street, will be added after the SR 14 construction is complete. We don't want to put it out there just yet. There's also 2 other locations, one at Washougal River Road between A and Main Street. And there's some little landscaped areas, we call them the pocket parks, there on Washougal River Road near downtown. We'll probably put one right there. And then on 32nd Street between SR 14 and E Street, or Evergreen there, probably right around Main Street is where we're looking. And so the next steps, we will, oops, went too far. Let's go back. There we go. There it goes. So, yeah, we're going to purchase these signs, the master signs, and get those installed. And then we'll get a list of businesses that want to purchase the signs, the smaller signs, to place on those. And once we have that list ready and everybody pays and signs up for the program, we'll establish a process and get it scheduled and get those signs up. Our crews will also maintain the signs throughout the years as well. So with that, pretty short presentation, but just wanted to open it up for any questions that you may have on the Washougal Informational Sign Program.
Joyce?
How
Yes.
much is it going to cost a business to advertise on the sign?
The maintenance cost is $41 per year, and then it's an $81 first-time charge for installation. And the business will pay for their sign and deliver them to operations. And really, when we sent out the letters to gauge interest in this program, all those costs were spelled out in the program. So the businesses are pretty excited. It's a fairly inexpensive way to advertise, and these are some really high volume locations where these signs are going, so they're excited about it.
Thank you.
So would you say that this program, the intention of this program is to pay for itself? Or will there be some out-of-pocket costs that wouldn't be recovered?
Yeah, the program is not intended to pay for itself, except for the, I guess, in aggregate, as far as the overall community and economic development goes. It's really going to be a plus, I think, for traffic to get to their destination and for customers to get to the storefronts that they want to go to. So in that aspect, I think it will pay for itself, but really the fees are there to maintain the sign and to just offset some of the costs, at least initially.
Okay. And I seem to recall us talking about this at our retreat. Didn't we talk about this a bit at the retreat? And I guess I didn't really know what it would look like or the concept, behind it and that sort of thing. What is the cost of the master signs? Do we have any sort of pricing or anything like that?
Yeah, we have some estimates. They're about $3,100, so $3,100.
Okay, and that will be coming out of
fully
which
installed.
Part of the budget?
Excuse me?
Which part of the budget does that come out?
That would be coming out of the street budget.
Streets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, and you say that at least 2 signs, we have enough interest to fill up at least 2 signs?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Interesting. And what, that it says 4 by 8. Is that 4 foot across and 8 feet tall? Is that how that?
That's correct. That's the master sign, and then of course you include the posts out there, and then each business would put their own individual sign on there, just like it looks, with an arrow kind of pointing in that direction. There's also, if the business is farther away from this master sign, we have follow-through signs that we can add to for another $81 a piece.
Okay. As far as our sign codes are concerned, this falls obviously probably within our sign code currently.
Right.
We're still working on that. But
yeah, the program was reviewed.
is it considered a monument sign? Is that how this is?
I'm not sure what is considered as far as what it says exactly in code, but we did double check with Mitch.
Oh, good.
And so he's looked at it and he's reviewed it.
He's approved it.
Yeah, and then also Don English, our legal department, looked at the program as well.
Great. Okay. So we can collect for this, and there's no problem as far as collecting for this. Okay. Thank you.
Rachel?
This is really great. I know it'll be really good for businesses. My question, I have 2 questions. Are these locations confirmed, definite, or is it still being considered kind of a maybe?
I think we're having some trouble there on 32nd finding an exact spot for that sign. I think the one on River Road, is going to work out perfectly, and then I think the one near 2nd and C area, there's some variance there as well. So, yeah, we wanted to catch the traffic that came off the highway on some of these busier arterials, in some of the busier areas. So that's really the intent, to grab the people right when they got off the highway and then direct them to the businesses. So
Something cool is that Google Maps has our roundabouts already on there. Sometimes it can be years before Google Maps is updated. I'm looking at it. Only one of them on the east side is showing, but that's pretty neat. Just curious about the one you're suggesting on C Street. So you're saying on C Street between 2nd and 3rd. So that's by the Starbucks.
near the Quiznos and all of that. Now that area there, it's in that general vicinity. We haven't actually picked out an exact location. We're thinking right there on C Street, but that can vary a little bit. We want, like I say, we want to capture that traffic that comes off the highway there.
Of course,
and then
not
direct it.
I can't even picture the off-ramp. I see the roundabouts, but
Right.
I can't picture, we come off the freeway onto the roundabouts, is that correct?
That's right. So it'd be right there around that roundabout the one on the north side of the highway is
It's
what we
almost
were
like it
thinking.
should be on the roundabout. Is that type thing
Well,
allowed?
you know, we talked about that with the state, and there's still some determination. So we may be able to put it right in the roundabout. That might be an option for us, which would be, I think, pretty neat to be able to do that.
Well, because you're going to get traffic, those that choose to go east will see the sign, but those that go west aren't going to see what businesses are to the west of that roundabout and that off-ramp. So to be equitable and encourage growth for those businesses to the west of that, it seems would be a huge benefit to have that really on the roundabout or just before you hit the roundabout.
Right, and there's also 2 roundabouts there, so there may be an opportunity maybe
Oh,
to,
yeah, true.
Yeah, on each side of the highway.
One
so.
on each side. Okay. Oh, the other question. That was all one question. Why wait? I know, we all know how that those businesses right in that area are struggling so badly
Right.
to attract business, to remind people that they're open during construction, et cetera. Why do we need to wait?
That, we got enough response back from the businesses more on this side of town, and we considered that, at least originally too, because yeah, those businesses are hurting over there. So we might do another round of notifications or something like that and just see if, you know, maybe the Quiznos or the Starbucks or somebody on that side of town wants us to put the sign in. And we'll have to find a location that doesn't affect the construction project as well. And there's still a little discussions as to where the sign's going to be on that side of town as well, whether it's in the roundabout, like you suggested. So if we can get it in and there's interest in that, there's no reason why it can't go in sooner than later on that side of town as well.
That'd be good. I know, I mean, I've heard that they're struggling badly. It just seems like it'd be good, maybe more than just an email, even maybe a phone call to those specific businesses, knock on their door and say, we're here to help you through this tough time. We have different signs that have been put up, don't we? Have we got signs out there for those businesses that are, you know, that specific spot that are affected by the roundabouts?
No, the state has the motorist information signs out there on SR 14. Some of the businesses decided to be included on those signs and some did not. But we don't actually have signs. The city doesn't have signs directly.
The city doesn't, but there's something
No.
there I've seen.
It's probably
It's the state, huh?
It's probably the motorist information signs on the state highway.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Jim.
Other questions for Jim? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We are at that point in the agenda for another opportunity for anybody from the public that would wish to address council. Martha?
Martha Martin, and my business is located at 82 Washougal River Road, Suite 110, and sign everywhere, sign. Everybody remember that song? I did not receive a letter. He's gone. So I didn't know about this, and we have several businesses in that little building that I'm in right now. So I'll check to see what happened, because I have a license with the city of Washougal. How many? He's
right
gone.
there.
Jim, how many signs on each sign? How many businesses can be on each one of those?
They're about 6 inches, the sign blades are. So we should be able to fit, if they're 8 feet tall, we should be able to fit, I don't know, we were thinking about 12 maybe. It just depends on where the landscaping is at and everything else. But we did try to send letters out to everybody that had a business license. And if you didn't get one, I'm sorry about that, but we did actually hear from a couple businesses that said they didn't receive one, but we did make that attempt, that's for sure. So we just went off our master business, business list. If anybody had a business license, we tried to mail it to them. So.
Yeah, I've had one for 8 years, so I figured you might have me on that list, so.
We might have forgot you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so, thank you. One more thing. Do you want to do this, or do you want me, the invitation? Okay. since I'm up here already, on June 20th, you've probably already received this, so this is a repeat of an invitation. There is a panel that will be presented free of charge to the public at the Vancouver Library, starting at 6:30 upstairs, and I don't know which room, but I'm sure there'll be signs. On the panel is Toby Nixon, who is the president of Washington Coalition of Open Government, Tim Ford, who is the assistant auditor. I want to say attorney general, but that's not right. He's the ombudsman for open public records. And there are two other people. One is the archivist, and then there is another person, and I forget their names, I apologize. Oh, me. That name I remember, as a panelist. And they're going to be speaking about open public records, lots of things that are new, like social media issues that are really stymieing a lot of people at this point. So it's available for free. Public officials are really encouraged to come because you get to ask questions of people that you don't normally get to ask the questions of. So I welcome you to be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Anyone else? John?
Just a comment for Jim. I go to the port every day, and I can't get there without going through those roundabouts, and I'd really prefer that people aren't looking at signs, because I would really like that they're looking out for each other. And then be going through those roundabouts, oh, something shiny over here. I would not want them looking at something shiny while I'm trying to get through that roundabout. If it's all the same to you, let's let them get through that first. Other than that, I think it's a great idea.
Thanks, John. Yes.
Hi there, Bill Durgan, still from right down the street.
Good afternoon.
And I gotta agree with this guy. I go through those roundabouts all the time. I've been in a wreck almost every time I go through them. Those roundabouts, like I said in the first place, they're not a good idea. People don't drive them well. They're proving it all the time. I go through those 2 or 3 times a day. Every time somebody's stopping in the middle of the roundabout or running the yield sign. Every time. This is not a once-in-a-while occasion. You put 12 signs near those, there's just going to be wreck after wreck. That would be a ridiculous call to make. It would. Then to this article in the paper about the disappearing mayor, disappearing money, and people are investigating it, but people won't even show up for the investigation. It's a criminal investigation. People aren't showing up. That's an obstruction of justice. So how do you sit there and say this is what they're doing, but no arrest will be made, no charges will be filed?
Some of us have the same questions.
Okay, as long as you're asking the same questions, because that's what that is. And if she won't come forward and answer the questions and he won't come forward and answer the questions, there's still something that can be done besides just throwing your hands in the air. And just wanted to point that out if nobody's thinking of it. But the roundabouts, they're doing those all the way on down through Washougal too now, correct?
Pardon?
They're going to put them down on 32nd?
No, not currently.
No? Good, because I'm really unhappy with the ones they've got in Camas, and if they just keep coming this way, I'll just be unhappier. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Are there any other folks that would like to address council? Okay. Seeing none, going to mayor's report, I don't have anything this evening. David, did you want to bring up next week's meeting? And
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council, as you know, the statute requires that you meet in regular meeting at least monthly at a regular time. And so in your code, you have prescribed 2 regular meetings, which is 1 in excess of what you have to do. And that's great. We have 2 regular meetings. From time to time, there may be an occasion where there isn't really any business to conduct that couldn't wait until another meeting. Or there could be a time when there isn't a quorum, and that's not because of the absences tonight, but it's just another reason why potentially there wouldn't be a meeting. And so we've had some discussion about the fact that in the past, mayors have canceled regular council meetings for lack of business. And we wanted to explore, A, whether there was really an ability to do that, and what mechanism would we have to put in place, and what the pleasure of the council might be in terms of our exploring that and your openness to that. And a thought that I've had checked with Don, and he believes that it's something that you could do, is, and I didn't get a chance to speak directly with him, but it was emails, but either in your ordinance or otherwise by policy, provide some discretion in the event of some very specific circumstances, like next week, when there really won't be any specific business to conduct outside of minutes and the payables, but our processes are in place that delaying those would not cause us to not pay a bill or to otherwise have a real significant problem, as long as you meet your statutory requirement to have that one regular meeting. Would it be appropriate for the administration with notice to cancel a meeting in that case, or if we knew in advance that there wasn't going to be a quorum? Don believes that it's something that you could do, and so we wanted to hear from you and see if you were open to us pursuing that at all, or whether, and it's too late for next week. It's in your code, and we'll be here, of course. And we're happy to do that. So just wanted to get your feel for that. And I know we don't have everybody here tonight to chime in, but.
Thoughts from council? Next week's a good example. You literally are going to have a consent agenda that has some minutes on it and has the payables that have already been paid and approved by the finance council. So likely we're going to come together for a few minutes depending on any council comments, public comments. And that's pretty much about it. Hey, Joe?
You said it's too late for next week, so we
can't change. You can't change your rules today. So you would have to meet next week.
Next week to change the rules.
Suspend your rules not to have a meeting.
I think it's a great plan.
I don't have a problem with it either.
It's fine with me. Yeah, fine with me too. I mean, if we're gonna make the effort to come down, I'd rather it be, especially me now.
Well, that's why we wouldn't want to, necessarily go out and tell you that we weren't going to have a quorum if we didn't have a change, because then nobody would show up and we really wouldn't have a quorum, but a few of us would still be here just in order not to have a meeting, if that made sense.
Okay, I will get into more detailed conversation with Don and bring something back at the soonest that we can. That will be fully ready for you to take a look at.
Okay. Any items from council members? Joyce?
I just want to make the announcement that there will be a celebration of life service for Phil Harris, who's the husband of Molly Costin, on Tuesday, June 19th at the Town Square Building, which is 1700 Main Street, at 1:00 p.m.
Any other items for council? Jennifer?
Okay. I sit on the Washougal Schools Foundation board, and I got a last-minute call last week to attend the senior tea and hand out some scholarships, and that was a wonderful experience. A lot of amazing kids in the class of 2012 this year, and just wanted to mention that. I also attended the Hike the Dike on Saturday, and that was a lot of fun too. West Columbia Gorge Humane Society fundraiser. Weather did not cooperate. It was raining and cold off and on, and then of course Sunday it was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
It wasn't raining cats and dogs, was it?
No. No cats. Nobody was out there walking their cats, thank goodness. But I think overall it went really well. I'm looking forward to hearing some numbers and seeing what they were able to raise. Coming up, let's see. I have one thing. Last minute, I got roped into becoming a dignitary dancer for World Elder Abuse Day USO dance at the Lupke Center. So I will be doing that Thursday afternoon. Please wish me luck, and all the gentlemen that I'll be dancing with.
Is it anything like Dancing with the Stars?
Than I do. So I understand that they're pretty talented. So, coming up on Saturday, Dog Days of Summer, the Stevenson Off Leash Area and dogpaw.org. They're going to have doggy contests and raffle drawings, prizes and giveaways and such. So, bring your pet and bring a pet food donation for animals. So. That's it.
Any other items from council? We are adjourned.
Great. USO.
The animal things.